Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me here for Quick Tip Thursday. Today's topic is adjust versus detail. We're going to be talking about adjust, which focuses on exposure, color, and macro detail enhancements, and then detail, which focuses on macro and micro detail, as well as tone and luminosity. A lot of people and a lot of users ask the question, what's the difference between adjust and detail? They have a lot of similarities, and at first glance they kind of look like they affect images in a very similar way, but they're actually quite different. They complement each other, and I want to show you that today. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with this image here. This is a great image because it's not enhanced very much at this point, and it could benefit from both adjust and detail. I'm going to take it into both separately and then together, and let's go check it out. We do have the introduction to adjust and the introduction to detail on our recorded webinars already in the archive. So if you want to learn more about each program and what each slider does, just go ahead and check that out. I'll send those links within the after email. Today we're not really going to talk about specifics, just the idea of each program. So first I'm going to open adjust, and I'm going to reset all here. So again, adjust focuses on the exposure, the details, color, and a bit of noise as well. With the exposure, this adaptive exposure really allows you to change the way that the vibrancy and the different highlights and shadows, they really change with this adaptive exposure. So as you push it up, you'll start to see a major difference with the exposure in a very interesting and more stylized way than just adjusting the exposure within Photoshop. And then taking these regions and really playing around with that, you actually have the ability to bring light into certain areas of the image where it really wasn't before. So down here in this forest area, which was a little underexposed in the shadow region, you start to have some detail right away. Just with the exposure, you're really bringing out the different tones. And then you can go on from there and change your contrast, brightness, your highlight, and shadows, which are more your regular type of adjustments. Within your details, you actually are able to adjust the strength of your details, which is really nice, but it is an overall detail slider. It's the overall strength of your details. The boost allows you to boost up your very much smaller details, the weaker details that weren't affected by this strength. And so that's really nice within adjust to be able to do both of those. But within detail, you have 6 sliders for your details. So you get to actually focus more on the detail enhancement and even more control over that. You do have your regular sharpening type of adjustments as well. And then color is really important here. While in detail we do have saturation and saturation boost and hue, detail does not have the adaptive saturation and the regions. Again, this is very specific to adjust this technology, and what it does with the regions, it calculates however many regions you put in your image with this slider. The adaptive saturation is going to actually pull from that region and then saturate from that information. You can learn more about regions in our questions of the week area on our blog, and I'll also point that to you. It's a little bit complicated to explain, but the technology is very specific to adjust. So as I'm putting my adaptive saturation up, look how subtle this really is. So all the way down here at 0, and coming up to 0.5, which is halfway up, is very subtle differences that really pulling out the colors within each area. Now as I move my region slider up, it will start to be a much more localized saturation, and it will start to really take those colors and saturate those specific colors. Now with detail, we do have the saturation and saturation boost, which is just a more normal type of saturation. And the saturation boost is going to also work on those weaker colors within the image. So here again, adjust is going to be focusing on exposure, and the fact that it's an adaptive exposure and adaptive saturation I think is truly the key difference within the programs. This is very specific to adjust, and the fact that you don't have much detail control, even though you have some detail control, but it's really not as controlled as the detail program, that's the difference as well. So let's go ahead and take this out, although I am going to set myself a little preset here. I'm going to get my adaptive saturation up just a bit. Okay, because I'm going to come back in and we're going to work with it together. So first I'm going to just save a preset. Okay, now it is over here in my preset panel, so that's good. And I'm just going to press OK for this layer. I'm going to make another background copy, take that layer off, and we're going to go into detail now and work on this image. Okay, so detail 2. What you'll first see when detail opens is this plug-in pre-processing box, and for larger images it will take a little bit of time, but it is essential to the technology behind detail. What it's doing is separating your detail into several different levels, and it's actually 6 different levels. You have your small detail, small boost, medium detail, medium boost, large detail, and large boost. This is the heart of detail. The ability to come in and control your detail at 6 different levels is amazing. So I'm able to come in and work with just my small detail, which is going to affect only the very small details. Then my small boost, which even affects those weaker small details. My medium details. Let's go really high so you can start to see. Watch over here in the mountain area as I take this back down to 0. And my medium detail is going to go up again. It's very subtle, but it's a lot of control over that detail. It's wonderful to use as an ending point for your images. It's great for output sharpening. And then I can come in and use my medium boost. Now watch the large detail. The large detail is going to take those larger image features and really work on those. So you can even do large detail, which is pretty obvious in this image when you work on it. Okay, so now that we have our detail worked on, here's before, here's after. It's pretty detailed, but I definitely wanted to show you what it can do. What I truly love about detail is the ability to come in and work with your tone in a different way than in adjust. And it does have your regular brightness and contrast sliders, but then it has these 3 sliders: cyan, red, magenta, green, and yellow, blue. As you move these sliders, it's going to change the luminosity of your cyan red channel, your magenta green channel, and your yellow blue channel. So as you move it to the right of this cyan red channel, your cyan is going to get darker and your red is going to get brighter, but the tone itself doesn't change. It's just the luminosity. It's going to get darker or lighter. So as I go to the left, my red is going to get darker and my cyan is going to get brighter. So that was pretty extreme for this image, as you can tell, but there's a lot of control of how bright you want to make certain tones and how dark. For this one, I'm going to go a little bit darker with my cyan, have my magenta go a little lighter. So here's before, here's after. Same thing with magenta green. Watch those pine trees right up front. As I take my magenta green to the right, the green is going to get brighter. And as I take my magenta green to the left, the magenta is going to get brighter and the green is going to get much darker. So again, just a lot of control over that. That is what this program is all about, going in and doing some final touches on your images. Then we have yellow blue, so same idea here. Okay, and I'm going to kind of go towards the yellow getting a little bit darker. We also have the availability to de-blur. You have to preview greater than 50%. It's a very it's a very subtle deblur. It is not the deblur technology that's in focus right now, but it just helps with detail if you have a tiny bit of blur, a few pixels. I'm going to take some of this detail down for this image now that we've played around and shown you what's in there. And then in the color tab, we still have the saturation boost, and hue. So again, these are also in adjust, but they're more normal type of sliders, not a single technology there. So now I've worked on both. Okay, now we can look at some of the differences. So here is the adjust. Here I've been able to adaptively expose this kind of darker region in here. I've been able to work on the detail to a point, but not able to get a lot of detail out because it over sharpens those details if I push it too high, and I didn't want to do that. And then and it just has a nice luminosity about it. And now with my detail, as you can tell, really was able to bring out the detail within the forest, within the mountain range, within the castle itself, and play around with it. And here's the original image. So here's detail, here's adjust. Now, my favorite thing is to work with them together, especially in images with skies, because adjust, I love adjust, but it has some trouble working with clouds and skies. There are times it gives some halos that I don't really like. I like to really boost up the adjust type of look on my foreground and then take my sky into detail. So let's check that out real quick. So the way that I'm going to do that is just cut my sky out from the foreground. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to use remask because that's the most simple way I know how to do it. This is going to be a pretty rough cut. This shouldn't be too bad of a mask. If you're unfamiliar with remask, we also have an intro to remask on our archives if you're interested. So let's just cut out the foreground. Doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to say compute. We're just going to go through this real quick since this has nothing to do with remask officially, and just say OK. So as you can see on this layer over here on the right now, I just have my sky. Okay, so now I'm going to take the layer below it. I'm going to take that into adjust. And I'm only going to be focusing on my foreground. I'm not going to be focusing on the sky and what adjust is doing to my sky. So if I take my specify filter, that's pretty intense. Let's go to vibrant or even crisp. I love crisp. Let's try crisp out. It's a little over detailed, but I like it. I'm going to take my adaptive saturation up even more here. Take my region slider up. Get some color back in there. And okay, that should work for now. We're just playing around here. So I do want to take my details down. Almost done here, I promise. Okay, so here's before, here's after. I'm happy with my foreground, but my sky is a little too noisy. There's starting to be a bit of halos. It handles skies a bit roughly here, especially in more adaptively exposed like specify. You can start to see that a little bit more here, but it can handle the foreground quite nicely because there's a lot of structure to it. So let's say OK. Okay, so now I've affected my foreground because I have this sky layer over it. All you see is the foreground. So here's before, and I've just adjusted my foreground and nothing else. Now I'm going to take my sky into detail, and we do have how to pop your sky, and it goes over this a little bit more specifically with detail. So I'm just going to do this real quick, just showing you how they complement each other in so many different ways. Let's take this detail. With skies, if you bring it into detail, the quick tip I have for you, just work with your large detail and your medium detail, and that's it. If anything, you're going to have to take your small detail down just a little because you want to smooth out that tone, the gradation that's in the sky. You want to keep that really nice blue without bringing up, without taking any detail to those little pixels in there. So I'm just going to take my large detail and pump that up. So here's before, just focusing on the sky. Here's after. So as clouds are starting to pop, I'm going to take my large boost, get some shadow in there. So before, after. Same thing with a little bit of medium here. See if that affects it at all. Yeah, it definitely affected it back here in the lower area. Here's before and after. And now I can go into my tone and really play around with my sky color as well by just working on the blue. So this is how I really enjoy working with them together. And I can play with my cyan as well. Let's get a really dark sky. But I've still kept a really nice gradation there. If anything, I'm going to take my small detail down just a little and my small boost down. And let's just process it back real quick and we'll end this sky. So very quickly I was able to work with them together to get a really still a very nicely put together image, adjusting my foreground and then using detail for my sky. And that's how I like to use them together. Here's before. Foreground of adjust and our detailed sky. So I hope that it gives you some ideas for your workflow with adjust and detail, and lets you know the difference of them as well and how each can work with images differently. Here's before and after. Okay, so I'm going to answer a few questions. If you have any more questions, I see a bunch coming through. Go ahead and type them into your questions module. I'll take care of it. For those of you that need to leave us, thanks for joining me for Quick Tip Thursday. Let's go ahead and answer these questions now. Mel says she's a user of Lightroom and does a series of adjustments before she uses Topaz. Is this necessary? Can you suggest a workflow? Mel, many people use Topaz in conjunction with their host program. So I really think the workflow itself with how you use the adjustments in your host programs versus Topaz is definitely specific to you and how you're comfortable working with your images. As far as Topaz workflow, and as your image workflow, work on your noise reduction before anything else. If you're bringing in a noisy image or a high ISO image, don't touch it until you take it into denoise or your noise reduction program, because you don't want to affect the noise first. You don't want to sharpen it or discolor it in any way, because it'll be that much harder for your noise reduction program to handle it. If you are working with adjust and detail, for example, I always say use adjust first, because you're going to be working more with overall exposure and working adaptively within your colors and your exposure and stretching some things out. You're stretching your details out with a little bit of, when you're stretching those highlights and shadows in the certain regions that you're working in. So you want to work with your exposure and color, those kind of adjustments first before you go in and start playing with your detail. So that goes for your workflow if you're using Lightroom adjustments for that as well. Try to work with your detail at the end. Any sharpening needs to happen at the end if you're looking for a workflow for output sharpening. That's about it. If you have any other questions, type it in if I didn't answer it for you. All right, Chris says, should we sharpen in Adobe Raw processing before opening as a TIFF and using detail? Chris, good question. And thanks for the feedback on the webinars. Let's see here. Some people do pre-processing sharpening. And again, I think that workflow is up to you if your image needs it. I do, again, say no sharpening at all. Take your sharpening completely out of Adobe Raw if you're planning on working in denoise. Denoise will work best if you do no sharpening first. It's just going to be that much harder. And then if you want to do some pre-processing sharpening, that's up to you. So that's my suggestion on the workflow. Ian asks a great question. When working with an image in Adjust, should you ignore the detail section if you're taking the image into detail? I do. And I always tend to use both. I love detail because it's the structure, detail that it brings out, the micro contrast is incredible. and I have so much more control over it than I do in adjust. The adjust detail, the fact that you have those two controls, the overall strength slider and the boost, is great. If you only have adjust, they are amazing tools. But if you own both and you're really wanting to bring out some of the structure detail within your image, and you like working with both, I'd say completely, and you know that you're going to go into detail, ignore the detail section. Don't mess with it at all, because you might end up over enhancing it and over processing the detail. Peter asked, does detail enhance noise? The small detail within Topaz Detail, as well as the boost slider within adjust, will enhance it will start to look like noise. What it's doing is enhancing the detail that's 1 or 2 or 3 pixels big, so very, very small detail, and it will start to grab different sections of your sky, for example, and it will start to look like noise, even if noise isn't there. And if noise is there, it's definitely going to enhance it. So that's why when working with a sky in Topaz Detail, I always say don't touch that small slide or small detail slider. If anything, take it down. Carl says, are your layers smart object layers when you made your remask of the desert house to control the sky? No, they were not smart objects. So you can use smart objects. I use smart objects or smart filters quite often. I don't do it here, just working pretty quickly, especially in these quick tip webinars. But no, I did not make these smart filters before I worked with them. So Terry says, how do you zoom in to allow usage of denoise and adjust? Both with the denoise and adjust and the deblur feature within detail, you have to zoom in at least 50% or more. The way that you do that is by using the little plus sign up by the preview navigator. Let's just take this in here. Right here is where you do that. And you have to zoom in more than 50%, because otherwise you're not going to be able to see any sort of noise clearly or any deblurring that you might have to do. It's best if you zoom to 100% actually or more to work with noise. James asks, can the Topaz software work on DNG images? At this time it cannot, James. You will have to convert that into a TIFF. Mary asks, will these work with portraits? Absolutely. I think you guys, if you've been to my webinars before, I'm not a huge portrait I don't show a lot of portrait photographs, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try to start doing that, because that's quite a similar question. But yes, adjust is great for portraits to bring out different highlights within faces, really crisp up the eyes and make the color just pop. And you can still smooth out the skin and leave the skin very smooth and not get that too detailed. Detail is great for hair or eyelashes, and you can use it selectively on that. I would definitely not use detail for skin unless you're working with a man with whiskers. It really looks good on whiskers and face that has a lot of texture to it that you want to enhance, but most women do not want that. So if you're working on a woman, I wouldn't suggest using small detail at all. Nelson says the Hue Slider is seldom used. Under what conditions is this feature used? Hi Nelson, good morning out there. Let's see here. Let me show you what the Hue Slider can do for us. Let's take the adjust image back into adjust. The adjust Hue Slider and the detail Hue Slider is a very subtle change. Let's reset all. And I'm just going to show you here, it can, actually for this one it's a bit dramatic, that's nice. So as you move it from one area to the next, it's going to start bringing out certain tones a little bit more. And it's going to start bringing out different areas of the image, different hues. So I always suggest to use it very sparingly, you know, only a couple degrees to one side versus the next, and it really can change your image significantly. So I tend not to use it that much. I usually work with the color and the adaptive saturation and the exposure to really bring out the different areas of the image that I like. However, if you find that your overall image is a little bit cool or a little bit warm, this is a great way to handle it. Bob asks, I know you mentioned you use both programs. Is this common for you to use multiple plugins? Yes, Bob, it is. I find that many of the programs complement each other, such as Simplify and Clean together work really well. Adjust and Detail work fabulously together. I'd say my number one plugin that I use is Detail. It really it's a more subtle program than Adjust, but it still allows you a lot of control over the luminosity of the tone, so you can still change it a lot. You can't get the vibrancy that you do out of Adjust, so if I have a really mild image that I want to bring out light and color in, I will take that into Adjust immediately. But I find myself using Detail on almost all of my images because it's just the most control I've had over Detail. Okay, Andy wants me to go over how to make my own Adjust preset again. I'm happy to, Andy. Let's go ahead and take this image we have not yet worked on into Adjust. Let's just grab a preset, change it up just a little bit, and then I'll save it. Okay, so this was the previous settings we just used on the last image, so I'm just going to reset all. And let's just go grab a fun preset to use. Maybe that's a little too much. Oh, let's go crazy. Let's just go to our Specify. This is one of the really dramatic presets that we have in here, and this is one of the presets that I tend to separate the sky out from the foreground because you start to get a little bit of a halo going on with the foreground to the sky, and Detail will just handle the sky a little bit better, but I want this really extreme foreground. So let's just go crazy here and take our adaptive exposure all the way up. And again, I'm just playing with this real quick so you can kind of see how to do this. Ooh. Okay, so let's say we really like this preset. We're going to apply it to a bunch of different images. All you need to do is come down to your preset panel. There's going to be a Save button on the lower left. You just click that. You say the preset name, so let's go with Castle 2. And you can say who it's created by. This is great whenever you're wanting to share your presets with other Topaz users. You can put your name and what you think it's good for, nature landscape, and what it's also good for, and any descriptions you might want to put on there as well. This is great when sharing. When it's just me and I know what it is, I'm just not gonna go through all that, so I'm just gonna press OK. And now at the bottom of my presets, I'm going to see this Castle 2 preset. So now if I go to a different preset, here's before, here's after, that's clarity. I really like that for this image. Now I can come back to the Castle 2 and everything will be applied for that specific preset we just made. So that is how you do presets in all of our programs, not just Adjust. George says, our brushes or layers coming to Adjust. We are. It's definitely in the request area, and we're taking all things into consideration. We're not working on an update right this second for Adjust, but for future programs we are installing new features and new things are coming in every day. So when the updates do occur, you'll probably see some new capabilities like that. Carl says, can you demonstrate how to save the different snap versions that are created while working in Topaz products so that they can also be saved as a preset? Carl, all you need to do when you're working with the snap button, if you find a snap preset that you really like, just go over to your lower left and just press save, and it'll save it. And you'll just have to name it. You can't say, you know, snap. It won't have its own name. It won't save as snap number 10 or anything like that. You'll just have to name it and go through that process. Because all snaps, those snap images are doing are taking pictures of the adjustment panel and where those sliders are at the time. The only way to save it is actually going over to that lower left-hand button and pressing save. Okay, and I think that is all for today. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you have any questions, definitely that I didn't get to, definitely write me at webinars@topazlabs.com, and I'm happy to answer them as well. All right, thanks everybody, and have a great day. Join me again for next week's Quick Tip Thursday. Bye-bye.